Welcome to the Broncos studio. I am your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, here with lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, and Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. When you look back to last season, the Broncos defense was nothing short of dominant. From Zach Allen to Jonathan Cooper, they made the life for QBs in the NFL difficult. As we count down to training camp, I ask you guys, how can this defense get better in 2025?
Well, I'll tell you, when you're playing good defense, you have great statistics. You got turnovers. You got least yards allowed, all those different things. And so teams tend to get complacent and think that, hey, man, we don't have to do much. But guess what? We got to pick up where we left off last year. First off, we got to get back to that point of where we were last year of being dominant, being aggressive. And I don't know many areas where we can improve, but we got to be at least the same as we were last year. Now, a couple of areas, I would say, penalties. We could decrease some of the penalties. Also, a few more turnovers, but even those categories, we were ranked relatively high. So they've done well, but they still got to get back to that point.
Yeah, and I think, Steve, when you look at maybe some of the areas where the Broncos defense could have been a little bit better, Sean Payton talked about the middle, the interior, kind of the spine almost of that defense. They went out, they re-signed DJ Jones, they signed Dre Greenlaw, and you're hopefully getting a healthy, energetic Alex Singleton back from injury. You add Talanoa Hufanga, so you've addressed that weakness there. And then the second area, which I think late in the year when they dealt with some injuries, specifically to Riley Moss, there were a couple games there that were, difficult, right? Like Cleveland Browns game where Jameis Winston threw for a bunch of yards. They addressed that as well by adding Jahdae Barron in the draft. So I do think they've addressed some of those areas that they thought were maybe weak points. But I think what Vance Joseph said a few weeks ago really stuck with me, which is that other teams spent all offseason looking at the Broncos, figuring out where your weak points, and hey, late in the year, they're going to try to use that as a formula to get after you. So you've got to find a way to answer the bell there. And I think it really comes down to, especially against the top teams in this league, when you play a Kansas City, right? When you go and play the Philadelphia Eagles, when you play, maybe the Green Bay Packers take a step this year and they're in it late in the year. When you play those types of teams, can you make the necessary plays on third down and in the red zone? That, to me, is what stands out and can take this defense. I know they were, third in scoring last year. They were great already. But to get to the playoffs, to compete for a championship and maybe even win a championship, if you're going against Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, you got to be able to make that play in that moment on third or fourth down. And I think that, for me, is where this defense can take that next step.
And when DJ Jones spoke to the media, he mentioned the importance of focusing on the details. He was like, Vance Joseph has put us in a very good position. Now it's up to us to really kind of hone in on those details to make ourselves better.
Yeah, and that's up to each individual person, too, to go back and look at the film and see what areas can I get better in. We can look at as a safety. I know I would go and look and say, man, I was a little bit late on that play. Could I have lined up a little bit, maybe a yard or two closer, and be that much closer to the play? So I think every player has to evaluate himself. It's not always up to the coach to make those changes. You got to take it upon yourself to be the best that you can be.
Yeah, and I feel like there's no egos in that room. I feel like that entire defense, they pride themselves on saying, like, we're all going to eat. So whatever I have to do, whether it's the dirty plays and maybe I make the tackle, but someone else recovers the fumble, I feel like that kind of mindset for this defense is really going to help them in 2025.
Yeah, I think this is a group that is just, there's this element of, hey, we played well, but we lost in Buffalo. And there were some plays we left on the field. And so I think as a unit, they're ready to get back out there. And listen, I don't think we can go this whole video without talking about the fact that the reigning Defensive Player of the Year is coming back too.
Oh, that guy.
And the way that Pat Surtain played last year, you hope that, he's now got to live up to that again, right? And it doesn't mean he's got to win Defensive Player of the Year again, but he's got a standard to live up to now. And I think that if he can play that way, and offenses are going to avoid him even more, it funnels the ball elsewhere. Other guys can make plays. But to me, it just feels like when you've got a blue chip player like Surtain, and then you've got pieces all over the roster, whether it's a Nick Bonito or a Hufanga, Brandon Jones, Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, there's some dudes on this defense, and it's about putting it together and like you said, Steve, going out there and kind of starting from scratch and replicating it, getting back to that point, because you're not just you don't just pick up where you left off without any work. You got to go do it.
Yeah, and I think that you got guys that have been there before that know what it takes to win. And when you have those guys, I think in clutch moments, when you look at them in the huddle and you see that look in their eyes, that makes you a better team, a better defense, knowing that you have playmakers and that they've been there before.
Yeah, well, Vance Joseph said that the respect for PS2 is only going to get higher, and I know that's going to come across the league and finding new ways to play against him. I know that wide receivers have been looking at his tape all offseason. Well, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us in the Broncos studio. As always, I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez, next to our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, and Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. Remember, we will be back with more analysis and coverage as we count down to training camp.